One round to go. Can you believe it? It's round 18, shortened season, and we're right at the pointy end now. And there's a few teams that are out of it. There's a few teams still playing for it. So it's exciting. It's going to be a very exciting last round. And but for this episode, I'm joined as always by the great man, Quinn. How are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Very good. You're never going to shake me. I'll always be here. So I've been good. It's been an interesting week. Like you said, a lot of teams still fighting for a spot. There's been some interesting footy on. It's been enjoyable. It doesn't feel like it's the pointy end of the season just yet. But as you said, there's only one more week to go of the home and away. So exciting times. Yeah,
it is. It's crazy. I mean, the weather's really nice now in Melbourne, and it definitely feels like it's finals time. And it just feels a bit funny. You know, we're middle of September and we're still in home and away games, but it's gone super quick. Obviously, with the footy frenzy and everything happening, games have been played so quickly. So it's been a very quick season, and well, you could say that. You know, it did start in March, but there was a 3-month hiatus. But we have finally reached the end, and then there was some big results over the weekend, and there was some teams that knocked themselves out pretty much of playing finals, and there's some teams that have dropped out of the top four but got into the top four. So it's all been happening, and your mob are looking in pretty good nick, aren't they?
Oh, I'll get into that when we get to the review, but oh boy. I'll say that for now.
We'll save it for the review. But the big talking points, though, throughout the week has been player retirements, and more notably the retirement. Some might say shock retirement of Cade Simpson. Carlton champion. I think it was his 18th season this season, so he's been around a very long time and still playing good enough footy to go on again next season. But the way Carlton are tracking and the players that they've got, in that position, it's probably the right time for him to move on and for the club to move forward, as hard as it is. And now it's a very sad day, and I think the whole footy world can agree that he's probably one of the most loved players in the AFL, isn't he?
Well, he's never put a foot wrong, really, has he? He's like you said, he's loved by everybody. He's one of those all-round players that he never really gives you a reason to hate him. So yeah, he's in the good books in that sense. And like you said, he's just such a warrior. He's been around for such a long time. He played with blokes like Koutafidis, and David Teague, his coach now. So he's been around that long that it's sort of hard not to love him.
Yeah, absolute heart and soul of the footy club. He's definitely is a Carlton great, a champion, a legend. Those words get thrown around a lot to players, but he genuinely epitomises them. He's third all-time games played at Carlton, behind Craig Bradley and Bruce Dool. So he's in some elite company there. And for me, he's definitely the most loyal player to ever play the game. Just considering the Carlton teams that he's been a part of, he's been through a couple of very dark periods with Carlton, 2 or 3 rebuilds. But he did get to play in some final series and some finals wins, which is good. But never got to reach a grand final, which is what he was hanging on for. But as a 36-year-old, it is probably time to walk away and let this young Carlton team emerge and go to the next level, because the signs are there that the Blues, they're on an upward trajectory, and it'd be hard to see Simpson being a part of that next flag. So it's probably the right time for him to move on, as well as he is going still could have gone on for another year, but I think the time is right. But as a Carlton supporter, geez, it was a very sad day hearing that news. I'm 27 now, and Cade Simpson debuted when I was 11 years old, so I barely know a Carlton team without Cade Simpson in it. So it's going to be very weird next season with him not being there. But yeah, it is very sad, and I'd just like to thank Simo for everything he's done for the club. He's definitely been, through us with the whole Carlton supporter base, one of the most favourite players to ever play for Carlton, just with his loyalty, and he left everything out on the ground. He was an absolute warrior, as tough as they come for someone so light and fragile. He just put his body on the line every week. So yeah, you will be missed, Simo, and I just hope the next time we do see you is when you present us with that Premiership Cup when we finally do it, because I think that'll be something you deserve and something every Carlton supporter would love to see. So all the best and thanks for the memories.
Well said. Well said. I've got nothing really to add to that. That was very finely said. And I think when it does come the day that Carlton do get that flag, I'd be very, very surprised if he wasn't the one to lift up the cup. I mean, we had our own man who never got the success in Richo, and when he handed the cup over in 2017, it was really special for players, fans, everybody. So I think that'll definitely be in Cade Simpson's future. Let's hope for you, hope it's sooner rather than later. But in saying that, there was a couple of other notable retirees this week. Ben Stratton and Paul Puopolo from Hawthorn retired. They've got 3 premierships between them, so they've done some pretty special things as well. Haven't been around as long as Simo was, obviously, but they've definitely done some good things in AFL. They'll go down as, Hawthorn life members, and the success that they've had and all the rest of it speaks for itself, I guess. But what did you think of those two? I know Paul Puopolo was quite impressive for me because he's such a small man, but he was a little nugget, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think both those players were very underrated. Maybe not at Hawthorn, but I think in the AFL as a whole, they sort of went under the radar a bit. I know Ben Stratton was their captain this year, but very unassuming and didn't say a lot, but just so solid down back. One of their most important players down there, and then Poppy just was that pressure forward and just kick goals like he was meant to do, like a real goal sneak. So, and as you said, they won 3 premierships, didn't they? Yeah, so they were both a part of that three-peat. So, they'll go down as Hawthorn greats, and I'm sure Hawthorn supporters will be able to talk more about them. But that they'll go down, and I think going under the radar a bit with the Cade Simpson retirement as well. I think they will go down as greats for the Hawthorn Footy Club. And then there was a couple more retirees from Essendon as well, Tom Bell-Chambers and Connor McKenna. I think both surprising. Do you reckon?
I think so. Well, Connor McKenna, I think, was the biggest surprise, as he's still fairly young. We did actually forget to mention him last week, so we're making up for it by mentioning him today. But he went home for homesickness, if I'm correct in saying that. So probably a little bit surprising there, but considering the year we've had and all the struggles players have gone through, you can understand why a player would miss his family and probably want to head back home. And I think he said he wanted to take up Gaelic football again, as they do over there in Ireland. So all the best to Connor McKenna. And Tom Bell-Chambers, I mean, he was an older bloke, but I don't think he was, I don't watch him too closely myself, but I don't think he was too out of form that he justified being retired. Maybe just his body hit that point or the mental state wasn't there. I'm not too sure, but definitely surprising. And definitely for Essendon supporters, sad to see him go because he's been around a long time. Yeah,
I think he came out yesterday and said, his body's just cooked. So I think that's the thing with Ruckman, similar to Cruiser last week, where their bodies are just cooked. They play probably the most physical position on the ground, just constantly getting battered into and run into. So, so I think his body was just cooked and his time was up. So, a fair few retirees during the week. So it's always sad. It always happens around this time of the year where players announce it. So, so Cade Simpson will be playing his last game this week against Brisbane, and Stratton Puopolo will be playing their last game this week against Gold Coast. And I'm not sure if Bell-Chambers will be playing because he didn't play last week, or he might have. I'm not too sure, but Essendon play Melbourne this week, so they might be doing a farewell for him as well. So it'll be a sad weekend for a lot of supporters, seeing their favourite players retiring. But another big talking point from the week was Elijah Taylor being stood down by Sydney after was it a domestic violence charge in a WA hotel or Queensland hotel? Is that correct?
I'm not sure where it took place, but it was a domestic violence charge, and I'm glad to see the Swans take action here and do that. I think I do also like the fact that they waited till he was charged by police, because I don't believe people should run on the premise of guilty until proven innocent. I think it should be the other way around. And once the police charge came through, well, that speaks for itself. And I think the Swans did the right thing by standing him down. But I know there was a lot of talk, wondering were the allegations true, this and that, because, why would you sneak into a hub to see somebody that, was abusive, et cetera, et cetera. But you don't know people's story. And, for the police charge to be laid down, obviously he was guilty. And I think the Swans and the police have all done the right thing, and glad to see, I guess, justice be served, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer, that one. Had to happen. And yeah, I mean, I think it's his first year this year, wasn't it? So he's been in the news this season for all the wrong reasons, which isn't great. But yeah, sort of had to be done, and yeah, glad that's been dealt with pretty swiftly as well. All right, well, let's get into the games. So round 17 just finished up the other night. And it all started on Thursday night between St Kilda and West Coast at the Gabba. This was huge for both teams. The Saints, they looked like they were going to win the game late in the last quarter, but West Coast just ran all over them. And they were led by Tim Kelly, who definitely played his best game for the Eagles.
He was huge. He was such a highly, talented recruit coming over from Geelong and such high expectations. But this was definitely his best game, and it looks like he's finding form at the right time of the season, especially with the Eagles looking like they may, or more than likely will finish outside the top four. So they're going to need all their players playing pretty well to take it all the way. But yeah, and especially with Nick Nat, Palmer Daniel, and the way he was doing as well. Huge performance from both those players.
Yeah, they were super. And yeah, as you said, they're coming right at the right time of the season. So it's scary because West Coast are a bloody good team when they're up and going. So I think the fact that the grand final is not going to be in WA may hurt them, but I think they're still a massive chance for the flag if they can keep playing like that. But the Saints, on the other hand, I mean, they did look good in patches, but still they still did blow that lead late, and where they seemed to be all over West Coast, and they just couldn't finish the game off. So, I mean, they should still play finals, St Kilda, but I think some results may have to go their way or against them for them to miss out. So I think they should still make it. And I think they're still good enough to play finals. It's just a few lapses in their games have cost them this season. But
yeah, they're definitely still good enough to play finals for sure. But like you said, I think those lapses, it's not going to hold up when it comes to finals footy. So I think they'll play, but whether or not they, go far or they win a final is a different question altogether, because you can't afford to have lapses like they did. They should have put West Coast away when they had the chance. And I was pretty disappointed in them too, because at the time it was kind of relying on West Coast to lose that game for Richmond to sit top four, and then West Coast rolled them over and made our job a lot harder, but we'll get into that for the next game.
All right, let's go to the votes for that. So we gave 1 vote to Nick Nat, 2 votes to Andrew Gaff, and 3 votes to Tim Kelly. All right, the game on the Friday night was, your game, Geelong and Richmond at Metricon Stadium. And as we said before, the Tigers look very impressive.
Very impressive. I want to know, I don't know who to contact to find out about this, but I'm actually curious whether or not they've already engraved Richmond's name on the cup for this year. Because, it has to be a lock, doesn't it?
Have a listen to you.
No, I'm very excited, obviously. I thought it was great. Geelong were the heavy favourites going into this game, and even I thought Geelong would get us. I didn't think we'd topple Geelong the way they've been. I mean, it did help very much that Gary Rowan was laid out, I thought, because it gave Dylan Grimes the ability to cut across and help Noah Bolter stop Tom Hawkins. He only kicked the one for the night, and he's been so dominant, as we've seen. So definitely not writing Geelong off, because, from one loss, it doesn't define them, and I think they're going to be a very, very dangerous threat comes final series. But I think Richmond have also found a way to, remind the AFL that they're still a powerhouse club. Not that, not that a lot of people would have thought they're not, but I think, a few poor performances, things like that, especially the loss to Port. I think we really needed this win to sort of prove our spot, and we did just that. So I was very happy. And our backline was superb, I thought, over the weekend. I don't know if you caught much of it, but how good was Dylan Grimes?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think this is... Oh no, Richmond just seems to stand up in these big games, don't they? I mean, Geelong were probably the most informed team in the competition going into this game, and you've absolutely dismantled them. So I think, yeah, Richmond, you just know when to peak at the right time. You've done it over the last 3 seasons, and yeah, it looks no different this season. Looks very similar to what you guys have been doing, well, especially last season as well, where you just came good at the right time, and yeah, your better players are starting to play really good footy now as well. You know, Jack Riewoldt starting to hit form. As you said, Dylan Grimes is really good as well. So yeah, it's scary. Definitely scary for the rest of the finals teams. But yeah, I think you guys are favourites now, aren't you, with the bookies anyway?
Yeah, with the bookies, it was funny. As soon as the final siren went, it was funny to see how quickly it changed from Geelong to Richmond. But in my eyes, I still think it's the Cats, just because they've still got Gary Ablett, Joel Selwood, Gary Rowan that didn't play again. They've still got a lot of names that come back. So, I mean, as hard as it is to say, I still think the Cats are probably should be sitting favourites. Although in saying that, Richmond's got a couple out as well, yet to come back, like Shane Edwards, Prestia, Asprey, etc. So
yep.
Exciting, but the win didn't come without a cost, though. We lost Ivan Soldo to an ACL, and due to the delayed season, you'd probably presume he'd miss all of next year now, which is sad for the big ruckman. And then Tom Lynch with a slight hamstring injury. He should only miss the one game, but you know, you want to play all the games you can leading up in the finals just to have some run in your legs. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, that pre-finals bye will probably help Richmond. Will definitely help Tom Lynch, I think, which is probably a blessing for you guys anyway.
Yeah, Lynch and Prestia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly right. So, and then Shane Edwards isn't far off too, is he?
He should be back this week. He's training with the boys. He's back in the hub training and everything. So, I mean, unless they don't pick him, which you'd be crazy not to, he'll play against the Crows this weekend, which is exciting.
So, yeah, it's all happening for the Tigers. And, yeah, definitely my tip for the flag at this stage anyway. All right, let's go to the votes for that game. Gave 1 vote to Tom Stewart, 2 votes to Jack Riewoldt, and 3 votes to Dylan Grimes. The game on the Saturday afternoon was between North Melbourne and Freo. And, yeah, as we said last week, very hard game to build up in terms of what the teams have to play for, but Freo absolutely continuing on with their pretty solid form, and they've absolutely smashed North Melbourne by 10 goals in a shortened game, which is very, very concerning for North. And they just look like they just want the season to end. And Freo, on the other hand, just want it to keep going, don't they?
They probably wouldn't mind a few extra weeks because if the season went for a few extra weeks, if there was 23 rounds, they'd probably play finals this year, you'd think.
Yeah.
They're in some flying form, and they're going to be pretty scary next year, I feel, with another pre-season under them, the way they're going. Really exciting. I mean, and Jesse Hogan finding some form late in the season. I think he kicked 4 on the weekend, which is good for the big man after probably having a few disappointing weeks. So, like some other teams, it's all coming together I'd say at the right time, but Freo aren't going to play finals. But the pointy end of the season, Freo are starting to put some good footy together, and compared to where they were early on, you wouldn't have expected them to be where they are now.
Yeah, they've just been super consistent. Even in their losses, they've been right in the games and they've played pretty good footy. So, that's a massive tick for Freo this season, and give their supporters a lot to be happy about and a lot to be positive about heading into next season. So, they've had a really good season. Votes for that game, we gave 1 vote to Michael Walters, 2 votes to Blake Acres, and 3 votes to Jesse Hogan. The late game on the Saturday was between Port Adelaide and Essendon at Adelaide Oval. Again, as we said last week, definitely a percentage boosting opportunity for Port, and they got that with a huge win against a really, really struggling Essendon team who just they want the season to end, and they're just not playing with a lot of spirit at the moment. And to only score 4 goals in this game was pretty bad. And but on the other hand, Port. I feel like Port are going under the radar, even though they're probably going to finish on top. They're still going under the radar as well. So probably good for them. Probably less pressure on them going into the finals, but they're coming really good now and looking very ominous going into the finals, aren't they?
Very much so. Ken Hinkley said it in a presser. I'm not sure if it was this week or last, but he said, I don't know what more we have to do to prove to you guys that we're a good team, because they're sitting on top of the ladder. They have been since round 1, I think. So they're definitely going to be a threat, especially with the home final that they've guaranteed now. They're going to be a threat. I was about to say come September, but we're already there. Come October, they're definitely going to be a threat. But yeah, I know we give Essendon a lot of stick on this podcast, and that's, it's all tongue in cheek, but definitely some issues down there the Bombers want to get sorted out. I think the biggest thing is they don't really have much of an identity on field in terms of, when you talk about, I'm going to use us as an example, but when you talk about Richmond, we play that pressure footy, that surging football. It's a bit of chaos ball almost. We just surge it forward as quickly as we can, and that's sort of our style. Is when you try to describe Essendon's style of footy, they don't really have one. And I think they've got the talent. They've traded in some good players, some All-Australians, this and that. They've got the talent. They just can't seem to put it together. So a big off-season for them, and especially with the coaching change, which I think we're touching on a little bit later. But I think they're going to have a big off-season and really look at themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of pressure is coming on, a lot of scrutiny is coming onto the Bombers, which is fair enough. I mean, we'll get into it a bit later with our spot on a way off segment, but the coaching succession plan that they've got is a bit of a joke, and I feel like John Worsfold's been asked all the hard hitting questions in the press conferences and everything, and he's not really coaching the team, so it's a bit of a shit show there at the moment, and a lot of Essendon supporters do agree with that I've spoken to. So they definitely want the season 10, and I think they really want to get stuck into next season with Ben Rutten and having a proper, just the one senior coach there. So it's definitely been a very disappointing season for us, and considering who they've got in their team, the way they've traded in high-end talent to play finals and win a premiership. So it's very concerning for them, and again, another team that just wants the season to end.
Well, considering how they started too, I think all of us forget how well Essendon started the year. They did in flying form. I mean, it was actually kind of scary for some clubs like Richmond and Carlton that kind of hate Essendon and all that, and then watching them surge the way they were early. Look, you can put this season down to a lot of pretty important injuries that they've had for some key players, but like I said, there's a lot more issues going on at Essendon than just on field. I think you need all those sorted out before a club can really start being successful. And it shows with a lot of other clubs that have had success recently. It's all areas of the club are ticking. So I think that's what they're going to have to work on this off-season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to the votes for that game. We have 1 vote to Travis Boak, 2 votes to Ollie Wines, and 3 votes to Tom Rockcliffe, who is having a very underrated season. Ever since he got dropped, he's playing some really good footy. All right, Saturday night, the game between GWS and Melbourne at the Gabba, and this was an absolute nail-biter, wasn't it? Melbourne just getting over the line in it was a massive game for both teams, and the winner was more than likely going to play finals, and the loser was more than likely going to miss out. So this is huge, and the D's just got over the line.
They got the job done. It wasn't pretty, but a win's a win, especially this time of the year when they really needed it. And like you said, both teams desperately needed to win this game. And I mean, from watching it as well, I know it was close in the end, but it just looked like Melbourne wanted it more for more of the game, from what I felt. GWS, obviously was still good to keep themselves in it, but it was one of the most exciting games of the round purely because of the intensity around it. You knew what was on the line. I think the players knew what was on the line. But Melbourne were obviously too good in the end, and they were good up forward. They shared the love. There was about 9 different goal scorers for Melbourne, which is good that they're not relying on just the 1 or 2 guys to kick all their goals. So positive signs to them going forward, but they're not quite there yet. They're still going to win this weekend, but definitely positive for them. And I think the Giants have got some serious question marks around them. I'm sure you agree, but to go from where they were last year, or where they've been the last 4 years, playing prelims, grand finals, etc., this is a really disappointing season for the Giants.
Yeah, hugely underachieving for them. Obviously, as you said, they made the grand final last season, and then the issues that they've had on field, off field this season with that they had their captain Stephen Canilia get dropped for this game, and what sort of message does that send to the rest of the team? And they've got a number of key players out of contract who haven't signed on yet, and they're in danger of losing a lot of them. So this could be them really falling off a cliff now. They've probably missed their window. They made was it 2-3 prelims in a row, then finally made the grand final and then got smashed in that. So this could really be the Giants falling off the cliff, I think, if they don't make finals here, what that's going to do for the group. So, yeah, very concerning for them and massive fall from grace. But you could say that about Melbourne. You know, they obviously fell off a cliff in 2019, but they've slowly sort of worked their way up from it. I mean, they couldn't get any worse, could they? But they've slowly worked their way up from it. And, you know, if results go their way this weekend, then they could be playing finals this year. So
they're clawing their way back, the D's. They're clawing their way back. But then in saying that as well, Melbourne was pretty poor before they made that prelim.
Yeah.
Because I think the Giants, so you could put it down to it, you don't want to say a fluke, but it was almost a fluke that they made it there. But then the Giants had those 3 years of playing prelims and deep. Like, they've had the experience. Like, there's almost no excuse at that point for them to drop off. But just quickly, I want to touch on the Canelio dropping. I know the message I was trying to send was that nobody's safe if you don't play your role, but that can't be a good look for the players and knowing that their captain's been dropped. Like, that's going to be important, especially with a game that's you so desperately need to win. That can't be sending, like, the players couldn't have taken that the right way.
Absolutely not. That's not a good look, especially, as you said, in a massive game against a team who you're both playing for the same position. It's not great. And, you know, he obviously was a nominated captain at the end of last season, signed a 7-year deal, you know, loves the club. You know, it's not great. It's not a great look. And I think there's a bit of disharmony going on there at the Giants at the moment. And, you know, Leon Cameron did sign on for another 2 years only the other week. So not sure where they're at. They're in a bit of no man's land at the moment. But, if they lose a lot of their players at the end of the season, then I think their time is done and they might need to start again. So, but anyway, we'll go to the votes for that game. We gave 1 vote to Josh Kelly, 2 votes to Max Gawn, and 3 votes to Christian Salem. Sunday afternoon, it was the game between Carlton and Adelaide at Metricon Stadium.
Oh boy,
this was always going to happen, wasn't it?
Look, I know you were saying, you know, you wouldn't be surprised, but this really did surprise me. I didn't see this coming as much as, you know, you're saying it was predictable. I didn't see this coming. I was very surprised, and I'm not sure what to make from it. I mean, I know you've got a lot to say, so I'll let you go ahead. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to take away from this game. It just shocked me.
It's just what pisses me off, and what pisses every single Carlton supporter off, is that we were still a chance to play finals. We beat Adelaide. If we beat them well and got our percentage up, we were absolutely a chance to still play finals, especially with Melbourne beating GWS and a couple other results going our way. We were still a chance. And then to be 45 points down to the worst team this season in the second quarter and not kick our first goal until halfway through the second quarter is absolutely disgusting and fucking pathetic. And to see, you know, Bryce Gibbs dominate in his final game and look like he was just running around doing his own thing, like the players were just letting him do that because they used to be mates with him, and was hard to watch. And there's just no passion though. The players look like they play with absolutely no passion. You know, the players talk about, you know, when they miss the Carlton Army, and, you know, they say that they were the most passionate supporters in the game, but they don't play like they have any passion for the jumper. You know, if they were half as passionate as the supporters are, then that'd actually show something. So it's really concerning. And I mean, like, and then to see Bryce Gibbs get carried off by Cade Simpson and Mark Murphy, I mean, like, it would have been fine if we won, but it's not a great look to see them laughing and smiling all together after a very, very disappointing loss. Probably the worst loss of the season for us. And yeah, it just feels like there's just not a lot of passion there. It's, I mean, especially, you know, Mark Murphy, Cade Simpson, 2 old timers, who, especially Cade, who's now retired. It could have been his last chance to play finals. It's not a great look. And we don't have enough mongrel in the team to really, be really like we want to see players pissed off with a loss like that. I think probably Cripps is probably the only one that I really see it from where he genuinely is pissed off about certain things. So I don't know. It's tough to take. I think we're all just fed up with the mediocrity, I guess. I mean, 2020 is probably a tick for us overall, but there's still these games that we've dropped and they're just disgusting and lapses in games. I think this is the 17th game under David Teague where we've conceded 5 goals in a row to a team, which is just not good enough. That's my 2 cents. And speak to any other Carlton supporter and they'll say the exact same thing. So the thing is now we just need to, now that Cade Simpson's retired, we need to show something against Brisbane next week and put in a better performance in that and really honour the career that he's been in. I did say Cripps is probably the only one that shows passion. Cade Simpson, apart from his smiling and laughing last week again with Gibbs, he's the one that bleeds for the jumper as well. So we need to give something next week for him and for Cruz as well. So 2 worries of the club. And just play with a bit more passion. That's all us Carlton supporters ask for.
No, big time. I'm glad you touched on the on them carrying him off, Gibbs getting carried off by 2 Carlton players and the smiling and laughing, et cetera, because I actually wanted to know how you felt about that. So I'm glad you did touch on that because I was trying to put myself in the same position and think if it was someone that used to play for Rich. I put Delidio in that spot. If we had carried Delidio off, would I have been upset? And watching Terry Degani's channel, Blue Abroad, who we've interviewed on here before, I saw a lot of passionate Carlton supporters furious that Gibbs got carried off because at the end of the day, he left to chase, he said he left to go home, but part of the reason would have been to chase success. Adelaide were good at the time that he wanted to leave. So, I mean, there was no need for Carlton to do any favours. I think personally, I wouldn't have minded if I saw, maybe Simo or Murph and then an Adelaide player, so one from each team. But I think, like you said, to see both carrying him off and the laughing, it sends the wrong message, especially to the, like you said, Carlton are one of the most passionate supporter bases in the league. And to see your players laughing after a loss like that as well when finals are still on the line, I can understand why that would be disappointing. And like you said, Cripps was really one of the only ones. Cripps, Simo were probably the only ones that looked like they were bleeding for that jumper. I mean, Cripps missed that easy set shot, but then he pulls that goal of the year 5 minutes later. So incredible. But yeah, I think Cripps and, like you said, Simo, it's going to be interesting next week how they all play, especially for, Cruiser and, Simo.
Yeah. I mean, like as I said, if we won that game and we're carrying off Gibbs, completely fine. Like, love it. But I don't know. I feel like that loss should really piss you off as a player. I mean, you can laugh and, carry on after the game, away from the cameras, have a beer with him after the game. That's fine. Or they're his 2 best mates. So you've got plenty of time to do that. It just doesn't, it's not a good look for Carlton supporters that have been through so much over 20 years. And to finally be close to playing finals again and to dish up a performance like that and then to see players laughing and smiling after the game, it's not a great look. So anyway, that's how we all feel, and it's it's pretty shitty, but I know it's 2021's a massive season now. We have to play finals. There's no other choice. So we can only look to them now that finals is out of reach. So, but we'll go to the votes for that game, and surprisingly, no Carlton players get a vote. So we gave 1 vote to Matt Crouch, 2 votes to Bryce Gibbs, and 3 votes to Lockie Scholl. The other game on the Sunday was between Hawthorn and the Bulldogs at Adelaide Oval. And the Dogs are starting to find some form now, heading into the finals. I think they're probably the odds-on favourite to finish 8th, I'd reckon, especially with GWS and Melbourne being so up and down. I think the Bulldogs are ready to take it. And, they had a pretty convincing win over the Hawks, didn't they? They
did. They look like the only team that really wants to finish 8th at the moment. I know we said only a week ago, who wants to finish 8th, because it doesn't look like anybody does, but the Dogs really do look like they want that spot. I'm sure Melbourne and GWS do as well, but the Dogs are really playing like they do. You'd say they'll finish 8th now. It's a lot more realistic, although it did come off with Toby McLean was taken off very early in the game with, another ACL for the round, which is disappointing to see. ACL is one of those injuries that you hate to see. I mean, you hate to see a player miss any amount of game time, but ACL is at least a year that you're going to be missing, and that's the mental state of a player and all the rest of it. And even your teammates going into that knowing that, they've lost a soldier for another year. It's not good, but the Dogs carried on with the job. They did what they had to do to, try and lock in that final spot. And I think they'll be playing there, and they're going to be very dangerous if they do, because when the Dogs are at their best, they're quite scary. Yeah, go on. What were you about to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like they're just a very unpredictable team. Their best is very good, and then their worst is pretty bad. So I think any team that gets the Bulldogs in the finals would be pretty nervous. So I think we're talking about that up before we started the podcast, and you said you don't want to play Bulldogs first up because you just don't know what they're going to bring, and when they do bring it, they're pretty good. So, but yeah. I think we'll see this round. I think I think for me, they'll finish 8th. That'd have to be a pretty big choke for them not to finish in that spot, I reckon. So, and they play Freo this week. So that's no sure thing for them either. So if they drop that and Melbourne win, Melbourne go in. But yeah, they just need to beat Freo. They beat Freo, they're there.
Exactly right. And I think they will. I think they've just got more on the line than Freo do. Although, like we said before, Freo in some fantastic form, but Dogs just have more to play for, and I think they are a passionate club, so I don't think they're going to, let that go easily. So I think they'll be getting the win for that one for sure against Freo next week. But in saying that as well, the Hawks, another side probably happy to see the season end. I know they're looking at moving forward, probably getting, 2 older players retired. Which kind of surprised me considering Sean Burgoyne signed on. What is he, 37 now? I would have thought that maybe they would have asked him to move on as well, considering they're what the path they're probably going to try and look to go down next year. What were your thoughts on the Hawks?
Yeah, they're another team that just wants the season to end as well. And then, the Sean Burgoyne thing was a bit baffling for mine, but I think Hawthorn have come out and said that he's going to go into a coaching role pretty much straight away. So that's what they've kept him on for, which makes sense. But yeah, he's another one that's just been around for a century, it feels like. So, the Hawks are going in a different direction now. They're going to start blooding some youth, and you've already seen a couple of retirees. So, Burgoyne will hopefully get the proper send-off that he deserves next season and have one last crack at it. But the Hawks are. I think they're slowly starting to see now that they do need to rebuild and really start blooding some youngsters. So they're definitely at that stage of their development. The votes for that game, we gave 1 vote to Tom Liberatore, 2 votes to Marcus Bontempelli, and 3 votes to Caleb Daniel. Game on the Sunday night was between Sydney and Brisbane at Kazali Stadium in Cairns. It was a pretty good game, this one. Again, it was wet up in Cairns. It's just every game that they've played in Cairns, it's been wet. So very tropical up there at the moment. But it was pretty close up until the last quarter, where Brisbane were able to kick away a little bit. But Sydney put in a really good showing, led by Luke Parker and Josh Kennedy, who were quite dominant. Brisbane's big names didn't really get going, but they were still good enough to get the job done, and look like they're going to finish top 2.
Yeah, well, that speaks wonders for the Lions players as a whole, that their best players don't have to be on for them to still win games, which is probably scary for other teams in the comp. But they've probably locked in that top 2 spot, you'd imagine now, and almost without their star player and probably future Brownlow medalist, Lachie Neale. There was a bit of worry there that he might have been suspended. I personally thought there was nothing in it. It was a 1-motion tackle. He was out the ball, but, hard to see that. But, yeah, they could have been without him. Bit of a scare there, but he's gotten off, which is good for Lions fans, and definitely looking primed and ready heading into October.
Yeah, it's 2 seasons in a row now that they'll finish the home and away season in the top two, which is great considering where they came from. A couple of years before that, so it's a big jump for them, and they've definitely established themselves as one of the better teams in the competition now. That's for sure. All right, we'll go to the votes for that game. We gave 1 vote to Daniel Rich, 2 votes to Josh Kennedy, and 3 votes to Luke Parker. Game on the Monday night was between Collingwood and the Gold Coast at the Gabba. And, geez, it was nervous times for Collingwood. This game was pretty close and quite late as well. It took a bit of magic from Goey, who was back from injury. And how good is he, by the way?
He's one of those players that I don't like purely because of how good he is. And that's probably the only reason why any plays for Collingwood. But he is he looked like he hadn't missed a game. He looked like he had been playing all season. He could have kicked 6 or 7 goals. He missed a couple as well. You got to remember that. He was everywhere. And I think Collingwood probably aren't being considered a threat at the moment, but even Treloar coming back was massive. He had a really good game himself. And with DeGoey, the way he's playing, watch out for Collingwood come finals, I think. I think they're going to be a lot better than people were picking them to be. Although in saying that, like you said, it was probably too close for comfort against Gold Coast, who aren't playing finals. So you could have that argument. But another person I'm not a big fan of, who actually played quite well, was Mason Cox. Unfortunately, he's smug, isn't he?
Oh, he's so smug.
He kicked that goal and he's getting chirpy. I thought, mate, you don't have the repertoire to start getting twerpy. Start getting, it's not on. I can't stand him, but he played well.
That goal that he kicked on the run where he took a bounce was pretty good, wasn't it?
How did they not catch him?
Yeah.
It's honestly like someone driving in a golf cart and someone chasing him in a Ferrari. That's honestly the speed difference between Mason Cox and the defender, and he still somehow got away and kicked that goal. And I got to give it to him. It was a pretty nice kick. A lot of people can't kick on the run, and he said that they could. But I don't know if we've spoken about this on air before, but I know I've said it before, that I think the players that come into AFL later in their lives have a nicer kicking motion than players that have played their whole lives, purely because they're kicking the way you're taught to kick as a kid. You don't develop your own style of kicking like most players do when they've played from a young age. So their kicking is very structured, and I think it's a very straight kick. Like a lot of the guys that haven't played much footy have very straight kicks, and you see it with Cox. He can't kick far, but with most of his set shots, he's usually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, he doesn't take many marks, and for someone that's 7 foot tall, he should be marking everything that comes your way. Considering his hand is the size of a tennis racket, he should probably mark everything. But he played well on the weekend, and I can't knock him for that. And I guess some other big news as well. Pendle's equaled Collingwood's all-time game record. He's such a soldier, but surprising he had no touches in the first quarter at all. So interesting for him, but he definitely made up for the rest of the game. You have any thoughts on that? I just rambled on a bit there.
No, I completely agree. That was Mason. I don't want to say it, but that was probably Mason Cox's best game since the 2018 prelim one. Don't you reckon?
It had to have been. That was the 2018 prelim was the only game he actually marked the ball. So
that's true. But no, he was really good. Obviously DeGoey back was huge, and Adam Treloar was back as well, and he just finds the footy with ease. So I think they get some, they get these last couple of games into these returning stars, and I think that you can't rule out Collingwood this season, that's for sure. And they'll make an impact in the finals if they can have all their players fit. So look out for them. But the votes for that game, we gave 1 vote to Touk Miller, 2 votes to Adam Treloar, and 3 votes to Jordan DeGoey. And that is round 17, all done. As we said, a lot of big games and a lot of games with massive consequences. So, round 18 starts on Thursday night. So the frenzy is over. There's a few days break between rounds, and the final round of the season, round 18, starts Thursday night. It's North Melbourne and West Coast at Metricon Stadium. Again, it's the tough one to make a case for in terms of an entertainment value point of view, but West Coast just need to win if they want to finish top 4. It's out of their hands, but if they win and Richmond lose, they're in. But I I can't see West Coast losing this one. I'm not even going to try and mount a case for North.
No, I wish I could. I wish I had more to say about it, but no. North have no case to stand for here. Eagles will win this one, and I guess I'll just hope fate falls into their hands in terms of finishing top 4. But I think West Coast, I could be wrong, but I think West Coast, same as the Victorian teams, if they do finish 5th, they'll get a choice of where they play their home finals. So, I mean, that helps a little bit. It won't be in Perth, obviously, but it helps a little bit. But yeah, no, they'll win this game. And like I said, they'll just wait and see what happens with the rest of the games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, West Coast very comfortably there for mine. Friday night, we've got St Kilda and GWS at the Gabba. Huge game. More big for... I'll definitely say this is bigger for St Kilda. GWS, they will need a lot to go right for them to make finals, but the Saints need to win this. They can't drop this, especially even if they do lose. They'll probably still finish in the 8. But in terms of their confidence going into finals and winning form, they need to win this. And I think a lot of questions will come on St Kilda if they do drop this. They've done a lot right this season, and they can't really afford to drop off now. So I think they win. They'll bounce back after last week and find some form heading into October.
Yeah, I have to agree. St Kilda take this one for mine. To be fair, though, the position they're in at the moment, they put themselves in that position with so many close losses this year that they probably should have won. So I think they'll make the most of this opportunity, lock in a final spot, and go from there. I think they'll win quite comfortably.
Yeah. All right, Saturday afternoon, we've got Essendon and Melbourne at Metricon Stadium. Another huge game for Melbourne. They just simply have to beat Essendon. They have to beat them. And they beat Essendon and the Bulldogs lose, Melbourne are in. So huge game for Melbourne, but it would be such a Melbourne thing to do if they lost this game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it really would be. It really would be. When the heat and the pressure's on them, they can't handle the heat in the kitchen sometimes, and that's what this is. So I'm still going to tip them. I still think that they should win this game. I think they will win this game, especially with all the controversy going on at Essendon at the moment. That you don't know where the players' headspaces are all at. They don't really have anything to play for at this point, other than just for the sake of getting a win. But I think Melbourne have more on the line. They looked pretty desperate against the Giants last week, so I think they'll get the job done. Yeah,
I think Melbourne, for me, they just got too much to play for, and they'll get over an Essendon team who've been very poor lately. Saturday night, Adelaide and Richmond, Adelaide Oval. Adelaide are coming off 3 wins in a row. You worried?
Yeah, I actually am. I actually am worried because, well, for starters, they're in pretty good form at the moment. They're playing all right. I'm not sure of the team lineup yet. I'm worried Richmond will risk resting a couple of older players like Cochin or something like that, coming into finals, which would hurt. And then Adelaide Oval has been a pretty difficult place for Richmond to win at the last couple of years. So I know we got a good win over Port last year, but we haven't had a lot of success there. So nervous times, but Shane Edward should be back into the lineup, as I mentioned earlier. So that's a positive for the Tigers. And I think the fact that we need to win this game to finish top 4 and probably secure a first final against the Gabba at the Lions, who we do have a good record against.
Against the Gabba, you said.
What's that?
You said against the Gabba at the Lions.
Did I say against the Gabba at the Lions? Well, I meant that. I'm standing by that. I'll stand by that. You know what I meant. So I think, I can't mount a case for Adelaide in this game, but I am a little bit worried. I do think the Tigers will win. I think they'll win quite comfortably. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the Tigers, you just have too much to play for. And as good as Adelaide have been the last 3 weeks, this will be too much for them. And I think, Richmond will win and lock yourselves in for a top 4 finish. Saturday night, we've got Brisbane and Carlton at the Gabba. And as we said earlier, it's Kate Simpson's last game. So, hopefully the Blues can send him off well and send him off the way he deserves to be sent off, which is, by giving their absolute everything for it. And, it's going to be hard for the Blues to get up, but as long as they show something and play with a lot of effort and pride, that's all we ask for as a Carlton fan. So, but in saying that, Carlton do need to respond after a pretty bad loss last week. Now that their season's done, they've can play with a bit of freedom and just go out there and try to upset Brisbane and cause a bit of disturbance up at the top end of the ladder. So, but can't see Brisbane dropping this with finals around the corner and with them trying to go in with some winning form. So I think Brisbane will still get up for this one regardless of the Simpson farewell game.
Simpson and Cruiser farewell game as well, we should remember, because they still haven't sent Cruiser off properly. I mean, I know he's not playing, but it'll be the last sort of game that is around, you'd imagine, for the Blues. But yeah, no, I still think Brisbane will win this game. They're fine-tuning themselves for finals at the moment. It's at their home ground. Everything's just working in their favour at the moment. So yeah, still Brisbane for mine.
Yeah. Sunday afternoon, we've got Hawthorn and Gold Coast at Adelaide Oval. Both teams aren't really playing for much anymore. Just looking to finish off the season now. Gold Coast have had a pretty good season. You'd definitely say it's a tick for them considering where they've come from. So they've definitely improved this season, and I think they'll get the job done here over a Hawthorn team who are limping towards the finish line and have been pretty disappointing. Where the Gold Coast have actually looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. So I think Gold Coast will win this one, and we'll signal an end for both these teams in 2020.
I think it'll be a decent contest. I think Hawthorn seeing off a couple of premiership heroes, might ignite a little bit of passion within them. But yeah, I'm same as you. The Gold Coast Suns have been too impressive this year. Probably lost a couple of games they could have won, and who knows, finals. Earlier in the season, it was looking like it was going to be a possibility. So I think they'll definitely win this and cap off their first probably impressive season they've had since being in the league.
Yeah, for sure. The other game on the Sunday is Sydney and Geelong at Metricon Stadium. And the Cats they just need to bounce back after their loss last week and get some winning form heading into the finals. But Sydney have been pretty impressive lately as well. They've finished off the season quite well, and it's not going to be an easy game for Geelong, but I still think they'll get the job done, and they might have some potential big ins this week as well. With Gary Ablett rejoined the group after the little quarantine hub that he was in, and Joel Selwood is potentially back as well. So I can't see Sydney winning this, and Geelong will fine-tune themselves heading into the finals.
Yeah, I think Geelong's going to walk all over the Swans heading into the finals. And like you said, Selwood was in consideration to play against the Tigers last week, so you'd almost lock him in to play this week. And same as Ablett, perfect game to get some game time into his legs. So you'd think they're both coming back. I can't really mount much of a case for the Swans. I think Geelong have got this one fairly comfortably.
Yeah. The late game on the Sunday is between Freo and the Bulldogs at Kazali Stadium in Cairns. And as we said before, it's not going to be an easy game for the Dogs. They just need to win this, though. If they want to finish 8th, they must win this, especially if Melbourne beat Essendon. So they'll already know the result of that, which will make this game even bigger for them. So, but as we've said, Freo have been very impressive, especially over the last 6 to 8 weeks. So it's going to be a pretty good game, and if the weather is going to be the same as it has been in Cairns lately, it's going to be wet and it's probably going to tighten the game up a bit. So I think it's going to be a really tight contest, but I think the Bulldogs, just with what they're playing for, they'll get the job done there.
Who do you think the wet weather suits better?
Probably Freo. I mean, the Bulldogs love that quick, fast game, don't they, with a handball. So I think if it does rain, it's going to suit Freo a bit, but I still think just with what they've got to play for, they'll find a way to get over the line, the Dogs, I think. And I think they'll win it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Dogs as well. It will be interesting to see how Dewey gets up there, but I think the Dogs for mine, like you said, too much to play for. But just on the dewiness of the grounds as well, I think we might have touched on it before, but in Queensland, even at the Gabba and at Metricon, at night, it has been quite dewy up there because of, I guess, the tropical weather they do have. Do you think that's going to be an issue come grand final time, that the grand final is going to be played at night? The spectacle might not be what you want it to be just purely because of the wet, slippery footy that it might be, which you don't get on a Saturday afternoon, middle of spring at the MCG. Yeah,
I generally think it's a massive possibility that's going to happen on grand final night. I think the AFL have come out and said there shouldn't be too many issues with it, but I think they're just playing it down, to be honest. I think it's almost a guarantee that it's going to be dewy. It's going to be it's another month, another 5-6 weeks away, isn't it? So the weather's only getting warmer. So I think it's going to be a dewy game, and it's probably going to take away from the spectacle of it. But I think we'll all be happy that there is a grand final being played this year, and it can be a very unique one away from Melbourne and at night. So, but yeah, definitely agree that it will be dewy, and I think it'll definitely take the shine away from the contest. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think, like you said, any grand final this year will be a good grand final. So
yeah,
especially if it's featuring the Tigers. But anyway, move on. Next week.
The final game of the season is on Monday night between Collingwood and Port Adelaide at the Gabba. Both sides finals bound, so they'll just both be looking to fine tune themselves for the finals. And Collingwood will just want to get some minutes into their returning stars and just try to play them into form. So yeah, be an interesting one. But yeah, Port need a win if they want to, really guarantee a top 2 spot or guarantee that minor premiership. So they'll be looking to do that. And yeah, as I said with Collingwood, they just want to get some minutes into their stars and fine tune their form heading into the first week of the final. So it's going to be a good game, this one, and I think Port will win just.
Yeah, I think it'll be a pretty tight contest as well. Like I said, Collingwood, those players have got back to Goey, Treloar, etc. Looking pretty good. They're looking pretty polished come this end of the season. And same as Port, they've been top of the ladder all year, and I think they'll finish the season off that way with a win over Collingwood. It'd be nice to see them do it in their prison bar jersey. I'd love to see how Eddie felt about that. If Port just ran out into the ground in their prison bar jersey.
It would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
You know what I would love to see? I'd love to see the Port Adelaide players warm up in the prison bar jerseys.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Just to stick it to Eddie and the Pies a little bit. They've made it difficult for them this year. Just, they won't be allowed to play in it. They'll get in a lot of trouble by the AFL if they did that. But just to warm up in it would just be very satisfying.
Just have a camera on Eddie just to see his reaction from it. It'd be great. All right, and that is all the games done for round 18, and that's all the games done for the home and away season. We'll obviously review round 18 next week, but that is the preview done, and just can't believe that the season's already finishing up, which is crazy. It's gone so long, but so quick at the same time. So in a very unique season, it's crazy. But we'll move on to our favourite segment, and a very famous segment, which is loved by all our listeners and fans, and they're crying out for this every couple of weeks. It is spot on or way off. All right, well, I'll kick us off, big fella. Adelaide are now closer to a flag than North Melbourne.
Yeah, spot on. Well, hard to say, really. I mean, they both don't look anywhere near it, but yeah, I think Adelaide are probably a little bit closer. I think the coaching support around Nix is pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to say spot on, but it's a very hard one to call, I reckon. It
is. I just think Adelaide have just shown up. They haven't just won in the last 3 weeks. They've actually played really, really good. So, and North Melbourne just look like an absolute rabble at the moment. So, it's the future looks a little bit brighter for Adelaide than it does for North at the moment. So, I'd say spot on for that.
Right. Well, I'll go on to my first one. And I've had this discussion with people over the years a lot of times, but if you're a Victorian and your team hasn't made finals, such as yourselves, Carlton supporter, you should be backing in another Victorian club to win it. Keep the cup in Victoria.
No, I'd say way off. I mean, not one Victorian supporter was going for Richmond in the grand final last year. So I think it depends who it is. I think it depends who the team is. As a Carlton supporter, I probably won't be supporting Richmond. But if it's like the Bulldogs or someone like that, maybe you get around them. But no, I'd say way off. I think it's a case by case thing, that one.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. Because same, like you just said, in 2016, I know I was all for the doggies
Yeah.
to knock off the Swans, but then come 2018, there was not a single chance I was supporting Collingwood to beat West Coast. So,
Yeah.
especially after what they did to us in the prelim. So I was all West Coast that day. So, yeah, no,
Yeah, exactly.
fair point.
All right. Essendon have set themselves back by doing this stupid coaching succession plan.
Spot on. Essendon should have let John Worsfold go last
Yep.
year. He shouldn't have been there this year at all. And come, or later in the season, done a couple of press conferences recently where he's talked about the Bombers in a way that, like, as if he wasn't there, if he wasn't a part of it, which, and it shows in the way that they're playing. He's not really their coach, but he's there and he's still having an influence. But what kind of an influence is he having? I think, yeah, it's definitely set them back. And like I said earlier, they don't have any real game style. And I think that's probably due to having two head coaches at the moment. So, yeah, spot on for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think unnecessary to do what they're doing at the moment, and they should have just given Ben Rutten the role, and or at least have Ben Rutten, answer all the hard-hitting questions at the press conferences and stuff like that. Because I feel like Worsfold's just copying it a bit, and he's not really coaching the team. So, spot on for mine.
All right, and last one for our famous segment for this fortnight. And this is a bit of a controversial one, so could go either way. But especially being the finals won't be in WA, Collingwood are the only side outside the top four that could potentially win the flag.
Way off. I think Collingwood haven't shown enough yet to show that they can. They just haven't been at their best for a while now. And I think West Coast they're still a bloody good team. And I think West Coast are better than Collingwood at their best. And when both teams are at their best, So, I think if West Coast finish fifth, then I'll be the best placed out of that bottom half of the eight to win the flag for mine.
Yeah. Do you think Collingwood are a better chance than the other than West Coast? Do you think they're a better chance than St Kilda, Bulldogs? Who else is in there? Are the other teams in the bottom four?
Yeah,
well, St Kilda and Bulldogs, really, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. It just all depends on if they can have their players on the park, really. If they can get them back and firing, and they don't get any more injuries, I think absolutely they're probably the best out of the bunch. So, but time will tell, and we'll see what happens. You can never really write off the Pies. They're a great team. So, arguably should have played in the grand final last year as well. So, you can't write them off, and I still think they're a big chance. Awesome. All right, that is spot on a way off done for another week. Let us know on our socials what you think of it, and let us know if there's any topics you want us to bring up and for us to discuss. So we appreciate all the feedback that comes through for that. But that is us done for another episode. It's been good. It's been a lot to talk about. Business end of the season. It's always a lot going on, and a lot of headlines, a lot of stories happening, a lot of retirement. So there's plenty for us to talk about, and it's. I know I can't speak for everyone else, but I know as a Richmond supporter, you'd be pretty pumped with the season wrapping up and getting into the real serious stuff now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's getting to that exciting end of the season. It's hard to explain. I get, a bit jittery coming to this end of the year because it's so nerve-wracking. You don't know what's going to happen. There's so many. You're only playing quality sides from here on out. You're not playing, those bottom end of the ladder teams anymore. So very, very exciting. Although in saying that, almost sad to see footy, because when finals comes around, it's exciting, but it also means footy's near coming to an end, and that's almost sad to see considering, the year we've had. Probably a bit excited for next year now when we can all go back. But very excited for finals, and I think it's going to be a very interesting one considering the year and no home finals for some interstate clubs, etc.
Yeah, for sure. I think the positive is that the off season won't be as long this season. With the season finishing a bit later than usual, so I think the off season will be a bit shorter. We won't have to wait as long for the next season to roll around, which would be good. So. But that is us done for this episode. As we say every week, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Spotify. We appreciate all the support, and we can't thank you guys enough for it. So keep it coming through, and share it around with your friends. And none of you, all of your love and your support, it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. So we really do appreciate it all. But have a great weekend. Stay at home, wear your mask, and we hope the team wins.
Pressure point! Pressure point! Pressure point!